Hello everybody, Joe Baronis. I'm inside the wonderful Core Code Training Academy here in sunny South Florida. I want to bring you a video today about dynamic and static stretching. Okay, there's a lot out there on it and I want to give you my take on it. Dynamic or static stretching, which is best? Neither. They're both awesome. Okay, so what I want to do, guys, in this video here is I want to explain first the difference between static stretching and dynamic stretching, and then I want to throw a couple of other stretch concepts at you. Okay, so first thing, static stretching. You know, I think that the most common thing that people think of when they think of static stretching is just kind of holding a stretch in one position. So for example, I might be stretching my hamstrings statically. If I were to straighten my legs, you know, I'd reach down and I might just hold this position, right? You know, and just hold it, and hold it, and hold it, and hold it. And that's the whole idea there, guys, behind a static stretch, is that you just hold it, okay? And then that's where you'll get people from team dynamic stretching that says you shouldn't be holding your stretches like that, or you should only be holding your stretches at the end of your workouts. Don't be so silly. When do I do these? Do I do them at different, that's another layer that I'm gonna add in just a moment. Don't worry. So that is static stretching, okay? Holding a static stretch. Now, the second one, dynamic stretching. This might be a good idea, so check this out, guys. A good dynamic movement might be something like this, like a forward leg swing for the hamstring, right? Keeping the core on tight, and then swinging the leg through ranges of motion, right? Dynamic stretching, right? Let's do another one. Static stretch for the chest. A static stretch for the chest might be something like this, you know, belly on tight, and then stretch here and hold it for 20 to 30 seconds, right? So that would be a static stretch for the pec. Now, a dynamic stretch for the pec might be something like this, where you would throw your arms through a range of motion. Okay, now guys, these are the most simplest ways for me to illustrate them to you, but I'll make it very simple. Static stretches are static, dynamic stretches are with movement. Okay, and generally what people in the fitness field are gonna say is that prior to exercise, we should be using dynamic movements, you know, jumping jacks, bangs, twists, you know, get your body moving in different ways before you work out dynamic stretching. And I personally do agree with that, but if I see somebody before a class or before a workout and they're digging into like a deep hip stretch I'm not gonna run over to them and tell them to stop, don't do that, don't do it, you're gonna ruin your body. Come on, man, they're not gonna ruin their body if they do a little static stretching. Now, by and large, dynamic, a little more movement in the beginning, that makes sense, right? Now, static stretching after your body's banged up, beat up, you did a great workout and you wanna hold and relax more, yeah, that does make a little bit more sense to do your static stretching at the end of your workout. But that means, you know, if somebody after the workout, they decide they want to do some leg swings, man, do some leg swings, okay? And so what I really hope to do, and what you're going to find with this channel, guys, is that both concepts are correct. Both static stretching and dynamic stretching, they're both right, and you can use them both at any time. There's a third style of stretching called Proprioceptive Neuromuscular Facilitation, PNF stretching. Some of you guys have heard that. That's where you contract and relax muscles. This is actually, in my heart, the best way to get mobility. So let me go ahead and show you that. Check this out. So what you would do on something like this, guys. So let's say I was trying to stretch down into my inner thighs, which we all know when we get in this position, you kind of lean forward, you're like, oh shit, right? Like it starts getting stuff. So I guess in our previous argument, I guess I would have only one or two options. I guess I could kind of like dynamically, I guess more like as another, I guess that's a fourth style of stretching. It's called ballistic stretching, and early in the 90s, later in the 90s, they kind of ruled out ballistic stretching, but I wouldn't rule out ballistic stretching because ballistic stretching is going to be more of like a forceful style of stretching, and I suppose if I'm being heart center honest here, I think there's even a place for ballistic stretching, but we won't go down that route. Let's talk back on PNF stretching, what we were talking about, proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. What the hell does that even mean? It sounds like a big name. You can look it up, PNF stretching. But check this out. If my goal here is to loosen up my medial chain here, and I want to lean forward, what I'm going to do when I lean forward is I'm going to hit like a sticking point where I'm like, fuck, I feel kind of stuck. And generally, this is where people, camp out and just kind of hang out, and that's when they'll move into their static position. Now, that will serve you benefit over time, and if you were to do that every single day, and over time, yeah, you would get more flexible. But there's something that you can do right now, and I want to show you this technique, and not in just the legs, but I'll show you maybe in another position or two how you can really utilize this technique where you contract the contract the muscle tissue for about 5 seconds, and then you release it and let it go. And then you repeat that process, and what you find is that the flexibility gains are just incredible. So check this out. So to put this into practice, here's what you would do. You would lean down until you hit your, kind of like your first sticking point. So for me right now, I squatted earlier, I did some deadlifts, and my hips are a little bit banged up. So like right there for me, I'm already feeling some tension in my hips. Now, how am I gonna get further? Well, I'm gonna take a big breath in, and I'm gonna lock that breath in, and I'm going to flex. I'm going to drive my legs because I can feel them stretching through here, right? But now I'm gonna draw my legs down and inward, like I'm pushing my leg and pushing my leg down into the mat, and then I'm gonna flex my core, and I'm gonna fire basically every single muscle that's being used. I'm gonna fire it all at one time for about 5 seconds. And then I'm gonna release and melt a little bit lower, where I will hang out for maybe 10 seconds or so, and then I'll repeat the process a couple times, and just watch, guys, how this happens. And I promise you right now, even sitting here, I am feeling a stretch. My legs are more stiff today than they normally are. So check out how this works, guys. So you reach down, and wherever you start to feel that first bit of space, you stop. Then breath in and contract. Flex. And let it go. A little bit deeper. Now, what you would do normally is you would just settle into this new range of motion, and you would spend maybe 20 seconds or so here, and then you would repeat it again. Fully in, lock it, squeeze everything down. And let it go. Now I'm a little bit lower. Now I'm a little bit lower. And from here, I would repeat the same thing. Full breath in, lock it, squeeze it, and let it go. Now, I'm all the way down. And again, guys, that was in my heart, that was done a little bit too fast. I should have gone a little bit slower, kind of easing myself into each position. But what I was really trying to do there is just illustrate how effective that technique can be if you really master it, guys. And we can begin to use that technique really for any stretch. So we'll do one last one here before we close this video down. So let's say you got very stiff hips, right? And you go to cross your leg, and most of you guys, when you go to do this, you're gonna find your knees like way up here. This whole hip is really jammed up. But how I would implement it, guys, on this side is what I would do is, just by gently pressing, you're already gonna feel a stretch in this hip. So if you're at your computer desk or you're at home right now, you wanna try it, cross your leg over, and you'll feel a little bit of tension in that leg. Now, that's like that same position where I was sitting there, and I leaned into the tension. Now, that I am feeling that tension, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna breathe in, lock it, squeeze it, and contract every muscle that I feel like is being used. I'm gonna try to fire that muscle during that 5 seconds, and then I'm gonna release and push it a little bit further. So, now I push it into my tension, which is here, and I am going to breathe in, lock the air, flex my abs, and contract. So I'm trying to draw my knee up against that push, and I'm trying to pull down with my glutes. Pulling, and I'm pushing up against my hand, okay? So it looks something like this. And then you let it go, and it's a little bit deeper now, okay? And then from here, and in time, what you guys are gonna actually find that this channel is heading towards is much more breathing-based exercises. But from here, I could cycle my breathing, and then take a breath in, lock it, and let it go, a little bit deeper. Now, Guys, obviously, if you have knee issues and you go to start doing this and you're feeling a little bit of uncomfortable tension in your knee, be very careful. I'm not saying cross your leg over and just start jamming your leg down while you're holding your breath. Okay, so guys, here's the quick recap on everything. So everybody always wants to know, static stretching or dynamic stretching, what's the best? Well, first thing, there is no best, because they all have their place. The four we talked about today were static stretching, dynamic stretching, ballistic stretching, and PNF stretching, okay? In my heart, all four of those are wonderful modalities of stretching. Your objective is to figure out what you need that day and give yourself that modality. Okay guys, again, I'm Joe Baronis. I'm inside a fitness facility here in Plantation, Florida, Core Code Training Academy. Guys, have a wonderful afternoon. Thanks.